Hey, I'm Jennifer Hurwitz, and welcome to Doing Relationships Right. Raw, authentic, and insightful, this podcast is a no bullshit look at all things relationships. The good, the not so good, and the what the hell was that? No worries, I've got you, and we'll figure it all out together without taking ourselves too seriously here on Doing Relationships Right. Are you frustrated with online dating? Confused by all the new apps and fancy dating sites? Do you find yourself choosing the wrong person again and again? Well, studies show that hiring a dating coach can maximize your online dating experience. So no worries, I've got you. And I've created a virtual course called Doing Dating Right. It's a 5-video series that you can complete at your own pace in your own space, right at home. How to write your online dating bio, pick that perfect picture, and so much more. Want more info? Go to my website at jenniferhurwitz.com. Again, it's jenniferhurwitz.com. Good morning. This is Doing Relationships Right. I'm Jennifer Hurwitz, and I'm your host every Tuesday and every other Friday. But today it's Tuesday, and that means I have a guest. And that I tell you, I don't do this very often. I don't bring people back very often. But when I do, it means that it's someone that I really think is pretty awesome. And oddly enough, y'all thought he was pretty awesome too, because this guy, Kimball Lewis. Hi, Kimball. Kimball Lewis from Empowering Parents blew up my podcast. I have to tell you, Kimball, I'm going to brag about you for a minute. Your episode went up. I think it was it a year ago? No, 6 months, 8 months? I don't even.
6 months.
6 months ago.
I've lost track. 6 months ago, I think.
Okay, you came on my show 6 months ago. We spoke about parenting and all things parenting. And I will tell you, my podcast blew up that day. I was like, boom, fire. I was like, you have to come back, Kimball, please. So Empowering Parents is the website, the Facebook group, the everything. It is fantastic. You are fantastic. You're the CEO of Empowering Parents. And I'm so glad that you're here today. What are we going to talk about? Let's do it all. Let's break it down. I don't even care. Whatever it is, you're the boss. I'm excited. How are you?
Well, I'm great, Jennifer. It's awesome to be back. And I love to hear that this was a popular podcast. One, most importantly, because the message I think is important. And we've been evangelizing the work that James Lehman and the Total Transformation has been doing for the last 10 years or so. So I'm an evangelist for that. So let's talk about that first. I'm delighted when people are hearing about that.
Yes, let's talk about how it started, where it began, how you're involved. And let's do that first. So, because you know what? I forgot about that. My listeners who are new, probably have not heard the first podcast, but they'll go back now and they'll hear it. But let's talk about that really quickly.
So I'm an evangelist basically for this guy named James Lehman, who came up with something called the Total Transformation Program. And he spent 30 years working with defiant kids in both a private practice of, he was a counselor, but he also worked in group homes. And it's an instruction manual for how to deal with defiant kids. And they developed all these skills and approaches that were very effective. And when he worked with parents in counseling, he realized that the parents don't have these skills. So the Total Transformation Program is to give the parents the skills that these professionals have in dealing with defiant kids day in and day out. For parents, it's the first time they're going through it. For the professionals in group homes and those types of settings, they do this every day. They talk about it. They figure out what's effective, what's not effective. So it's transferring the knowledge to the parents who are going through this for the first time. They feel like they're alone, but their experience is not unique. There's so many parents have been through this. Yeah. The Total Transformation Program is the instruction manual for how to deal with this. And it's not just one thing. There's an entire approach about how you change your relationship in dealing with your child, how you talk with your child, how you set up consequences when you have a child who's defiant.
I love it. And you know what? I feel really strongly about this in your program, which I love. I love the way you lay it out too. It's actionable value. It's actually, there are steps you can take and things you can do. I feel like sometimes as a parent, we feel so lost. We feel like we don't really know if we're making the right choices. And I really do. I think your program's, it's awesome. I think everything, it's great.
And the program tells you what to do and what to say in the various situations. Great. It also gives you the background, the philosophy of like why it's happening, which is important, but it also tells you what you do in these situations, which is very practical. It's practical parenting advice.
I love that because sometimes in the heat of the moment or when your emotions get so, something happens and it's tied in with emotions, you forget that you can have things. There are things that work. right? When you're parenting, there are actually things that will help
Yes.
you. And I can remember, like, even with myself, so many times that if I would have just calmed down or taken a breath or, and it's good to know that you have things that you can actually do. So I think that's awesome. I appreciate you so much. I think it's just great. So can I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
Okay. So we talked about before the show, and we were thinking about what we're going to talk about. And we were talking about kids and lying in all different. Now, of course, all kids lie. Is that true at some point?
All kids lie.
Okay. Because I know mine have.
all kids lie.
Right.
And if your child doesn't lie, it means you probably haven't caught him.
Okay.
Or her.
Right.
I'll say him, but I mean him or her.
I have so many questions about lying because I always say to my kids, there's no lying in my house. There's no lying in my house. Where I would start, we're not going to lie. There, we tell the truth around here and whatever. I don't, I feel like I have a pretty open relationship with both my boys, but I know they've lied because I've got them. So what do we do? What's behind it all? Go ahead. I'll let you.
So first of all, I appreciate, and I think it's a very good approach that you're saying we don't lie in this household.
Oh, good.
Which is setting up the rules of the
God.
household.
Okay.
Yeah, the expectations are we don't lie.
Okay.
And kids need to be reminded what the rules are.
Okay.
They're new at this. To us, the rules seem obvious,
Right.
but to some kids, it's not. And they know lying's not right.
Right.
But the number one thing we tell parents about lying is don't consider it a moral issue. If your child lies, don't think they're morally defective.
Oh, I love that.
Because you'll view your child differently if you think they're morally have a problem.
Right.
And their child will know that too. So most kids lie as a way to solve a problem. They either did something they weren't supposed to, or they didn't do something they were supposed to do, one or the other. And they don't have good problem solving skills when they're young. They haven't dealt with not getting that thing done, and they lie about it.
Sure.
They say, okay, I'll just get out of it by lying. It's a problem solving. It's a poor problem solving skill that they use. So don't view it as a moral problem. View it as a behavior problem that's fixable.
Okay. So how do we?
And it really is.
It is. So how do we do this? How do we fix it? We don't want to give away all your secrets, but I would love to know.
I'll give you a couple key tips.
Please. Okay.
One is you got to call when your kids are lying, you need to call them on it.
Okay. Good. That's good.
And lies of omission are lies also. If your child's
Thank
telling you
Kimball.
partial truth.
Yes, it is. Okay, I love that. Say that again for the people in the back.
Lies of omission are lies. If they don't tell you the whole story and they leave out big parts of it, that's a lie also.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And if they argue with you, the answer is, in this household, the parents make the rules. That's the way it is.
Yes.
And the definition of a lie includes lies of omission.
Okay.
It's okay to say that.
Okay.
Just so we know what the rules are in this household.
I love it. I say that all the time. I'm like, look, it's just because you didn't tell me doesn't mean it's not a lie, right?
Exactly.
Okay, good. I'm so good. Okay, I'm
tell
doing
that
right.
to them.
Okay.
And you know what? In media and every place else, everyone's lying around technicalities. Like, well, I didn't actually do that one sliver of a thing, but they did something else. So they learn like that's an okay thing.
Right.
But you get to set the rules in your own household.
Okay.
And you should. And one of them should be the lies of omission or lies.
Okay. I'm so glad you said that. That makes me so happy because a lot of people, they get away with that crap. Even like adults, they'll be like, well, you didn't ask me if I did that. That's my favorite. Well, I was here, and here, but you didn't ask me if I went there. I'm like, okay, but I shouldn't. What do you mean? It was in the, like, come on.
Yes. The only time a lie of omission, the only time you shouldn't, that doesn't work is if you're on trial somewhere. Right. Your lawyer says only answer the question that they asked.
Right.
Listen to your lawyer. But in the household, it's not like that. Lies of omission are lies.
Exactly.
That's perjury. Lies of omissions is perjury in the household. So.
Right. And I remember last time we spoke about this. You actually think that we should put our rules on the fridge, like write them down. Like we don't lie. Do you think that's important?
Write them down.
Yeah, write them down.
For two main reasons. One is we assume kids know the rules and sometimes they don't.
Okay.
And the second reason is it cuts down on the fighting because when a child does something that breaks the rules, you can point to the rules and say, the reason you're getting a consequence is because you broke the rules. And you have this third party as the rules. It's not just between you and your child, a personal thing. It's between your child and the rules.
Gotcha. Okay. Next.
And that sort of separates the two. Obviously you make the rules so your child will think it's between you and them. But once you separate the rules from yourself and you have them as a separate entity sitting on the refrigerator,
I see.
It's much easier to point to the rules and say the reason you're being punished is because or the reason you're getting a consequence is because you broke the rules.
I love that. Right. It takes emotion out of it.
Yep.
basically.
And if they don't like the rules, you can have a conversation when things are calm about what you think the rules ought to be. And usually they don't argue. They actually don't argue about the rules because most parents' rules are reasonable.
Right. Okay. Now here's my question for you. What about this one? What happens when your kid, because I have teenagers, what happens when your teenager says, well, you told me if I told you the truth, I wouldn't get in trouble.
So that's an excellent question,
Yes,
which it's like we planned this. We didn't actually. So
Oh,
this is the perfect segue into my number one tip on lying, which is separate the lie from the thing they were lying about.
Okay.
And then the consequences are separate.
Okay. Say that again. I'm confused. Okay.
So let's say your child comes home late from curfew.
Yes.
Doesn't make
Perfect.
curfew.
Perfect example. Yes.
Okay. And then they lie about why
Okay.
they didn't get home on time. Like, we got a flat tire, but you find out that's a lie.
Right.
There wasn't really a flat tire. They just were at the party too late. You want one consequence for them not having gotten home on time.
Okay.
And a totally separate consequence for lying about it.
Oh, Kimball, you're kidding.
Don't combine the two, because the next time they do something wrong, they now have to wrestle with, do I lie and possibly get two consequences, or tell the truth and only get the consequence for having come home past curfew? So you've separated the two.
That's brilliant. I did not do that.
Then if your child's really good about fessing up, you can actually reward them by saying, you know what, I'm going to go easy on
That's what I do.
the consequence because you were honest about it. And that happens in the court systems also. They will cut your sentence down. They'll work with you if you're honest about stuff.
Right.
They work with you less if you're not. And also in a court, this is just practical. In a court, if you lie on the stand, that's a totally separate charge.
Right.
That's perjury.
Right.
And they'll try that separately from the actual crime. So separating the lying from the actual thing they were lying about is very important.
Right. Oh, yeah, exactly.
So two consequences, one
different.
consequence for lying and one consequence for whatever it is that they didn't do or were supposed to do.
Because I get stuck in that a lot because my no lying rule in my house, my kids come to me and they're like, well, you told me Mom, I didn't lie. I said I was out at the party at blah, 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 but now I'm getting in trouble for it. So I'm not going to tell you the truth the next time, because if I tell you the truth, then I'm going to get in trouble for it anyways. Why would I tell you?
Yeah.
And then I give them the whole spiel. Well, if you were working at Wells Fargo and you whatever, messed up a whole entire project, and you walked into the boss and you said, well, I messed up everything and you're getting fired, but the boss isn't going to say you're not getting fired just because you said that you're the one that messed up. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
So then I'm kind of screwed, because what do I do? Like, I've already but you're right. If I would have separated the consequences and said, right?
Yeah. You separate they're going to get a consequence most likely for what it is that they did.
Right.
But the lying is an additional consequence that's going to be even worse. So they have a decision to make at that point whether they want to lie about it.
But what if they don't lie? What if they tell the truth, but they still, that's different, right? Because if they tell the truth, but they still did it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Then what do I
then you as a parent, you use your judgment.
Yeah.
Do you still institute a consequence?
Okay.
Or if it's a problem that happens just once in a while, you might go easy on them. But if it's a continual problem, then say, look, I really appreciate that you're being honest with me.
Okay.
And you're not going to get additional consequence because you lied to me about it. And I trust you because you're telling me the truth. And you do have a consequence for coming in late. And that is that for the next 3 weekends, I want you in at 9 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And if you can show that you can get in by 9 o'clock for the next 3 weekends, then we'll push your curfew back up to 10 o'clock.
Right. Oh, that's great.
And you can work with me on that and show that you have trust with them if they're willing to do that. So
perfect. Oh, good. I feel like every time I talk to you, I feel like a good mom. I feel like I'm doing. I did something right, Kimball. I did something right. Okay, this is it's.
But separating the consequences, separate consequence for lying versus the thing that they did is just it's practical.
That is practical.
It works better.
I like practical parenting. This works for me.
Yeah, and the job situation. I explain this to my kids. The job situation. Usually, when you screw up at work, you don't get fired for it. But if you lie about it, as a manager, if I can't trust my employee, like I don't think that they're being honest with me, I can't work with that person. I really can't work with that person. I can tolerate mistakes. Mistakes happen. We all make mistakes. Managers make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. But if you can't trust the people you're working with, that's a much bigger problem.
Agree.
And you'll actually get moved, whether you get fired for that or you're the very first person that gets laid off the second there's a chance to lay people off. If they don't trust you, you're gone. So the line can be much worse. Now, if you do something really egregious, you're probably going to lose your job. But most of the time, the stuff isn't that egregious.
Right. Now, do kids lie, obviously, at different ages for different reasons? But do you think that some children lie because they're just scared? They're scared of telling the truth because of the...
Yeah, they're scared of their consequence. Yeah.
So what do you suggest?
So that's why we don't like over the top punishments.
I agree.
Kids don't want to be punished. They don't want like these long-term punishments. We view consequences as a way to teach a child something. Like they don't learn a lesson from being hurt. They learn a lesson from, if they came in late, maybe they lose privileges next weekend, but you lower their curfew. And then if they can, and you let them know, if you can come in 3 weekends in a row or 2 weekends in a row on time, I'll extend your curfew. You've shown that you can earn that responsibility.
Right. It's so interesting to me, this whole thing. So what else is next? You have another tip for us? Or do you think
on lying?
On lying, what else you got? Is that all the juicy gossip on lying? I'm trying to think.
Let me look at. I have some notes on lying.
Okay, here. You do, but also I want to talk about. Oh, go ahead.
I just it's basically what you started with, saying we don't lie in this household. Yeah. But I like to explain to kids why lying is bad. It hurts the people you're lying to. They don't trust you anymore, and it hurts you because they don't trust you. You're not going to get additional responsibilities because they're not trusting you. And in the long run, you want your brand to be honesty. It helps you. It helps everyone. It helps society. It's almost a moral imperative, but I don't want to say it's moral because all kids lie and they're doing to solve problems. It's not because they're morally defective, but you want it to be your brand. You want it to be a core value of your household.
Absolutely.
And it's fine to explain that to your kids.
Yeah.
And I think they understand that.
I think so too. It's certain ages, and also as they get older, you need to set an example too. Like if they see you lying, and I feel like, right? I mean, you want to, I don't lie in front, I try not to lie in front of the kids, but lie to them or lie. Do you see parents doing?
Yeah, that's, you want to, we talked about this before in our last podcast, is you want to model the behavior you want to see in your kids.
Absolutely.
If you're lying and you're talking about lying and you misrepresent things, and your kids are watching you. Absolutely. They watch you all the time. So
yeah,
and a white lie, maybe, like a white lie.
Right.
How was dinner, honey? That was awful.
How did I look?
No, you don't have to always tell the truth on certain things like that. Right. Exactly. Yeah. You can explain that to your child, but that's a technicality. Right. Kids know that.
And what if kids lie all the time? Like what if your kid is one of those kids who just like you find they just constantly are lying? Is that a different animal or is
it is different. That's a problem that really needs to be addressed. Okay. And I would suggest that you go to empoweringparents.com.
Yep.
And you can search on the terms lying intervention. We recommend that you have a lying intervention with your child.
Oh, there's really a thing.
There is a thing. Yeah. You have like an intervention. You explain to them what's going on and that from this point forward until things change, that they won't be trusted. We have some articles on like, should you search your child's room?
Okay.
Like, does your child deserve privacy?
And what do you say about that?
And our reflex reaction is if your child is responsible and is basically meeting their responsibilities, respect their privacy.
Okay.
If you have reason to believe that they're not, that room doesn't belong. They're a guest in your house essentially. And you can go in, you can search for drugs, you can search for alcohol, you can search their room, you can search their computers, you own those things, and you have a reason to believe that they're, because of the lying and other stuff that's going on, that you have probable cause essentially to go in and look at all that stuff. Yeah. So you want to respect your child's privacy if they've earned it.
I love that.
If they're lying to you, they've lost that privilege, and they can gain it back, but it's a long road back.
If co-parenting during a pandemic taught us anything, it's that you need proof your kids are safe. With alcohol abuse on the rise, many co-parents are turning to the no-nonsense system committed to providing proof, protection, and peace of mind. SoberLink's alcohol monitoring system is the most convenient, reliable, and reasonable way for a parent to provide evidence that they are not drinking during parenting time. SoberLink's real-time alerts make it easy to negotiate with any party. Judges rest assured that the child is safe. Attorneys get court-admissible evidence of sobriety, and both parents have empowerment and peace of mind. Do divorce right and trust the experts in remote alcohol monitoring technology to keep your kids safe, happy, and well-adjusted. To download the guide, 5 non-negotiables for embracing a new normal that I developed with SoberLink, visit www.soberlink.com/DRR. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I always say to my kids, look, I'm fine with you. You do your thing. And but if it becomes an issue, the phone is mine and I get to go through it. I trust you until I don't. And then it's mine. I bought the phone. Your dad bought the phone, the car, the whatever, it just becomes mine when I
think that's completely fair and the way it should be done.
Yeah. And do you see a flip in the kids? Like, is there a certain age when you see the little white lies go to, or not the little, but the lying, it gets worse? And do you think with teenagers, that's just what happens? Or do you think that there are younger kids that technically are, I don't know. Is it worse?
Some kids are hard.
Yeah.
Some kids are difficult. Some kids are born a little bit sneakier than others.
Oh, is that interesting?
They just I don't know, we all know someone who's a little bit sneaky.
Yeah, I do.
And they were kind of born that way.
Yeah.
And I have a son who's the opposite. He can't lie because he'll smile when he lies. if he tells a fib or and it's not even appropriate. It might not even be a funny situation, but you can tell on his face he can't lie.
Yeah.
And we have a funny story about this when I went out to buy my wife. This was several years ago. My son's 18 now.
Mine too.
But when they were 10, I took them out for Christmas time to buy a new iMac for my wife. And I said, this is a secret. This is a secret, right? Do not tell mom that she's getting an iMac. It's a surprise. And we went out and bought it and brought it back. And then my wife,
she said, what'd you get me?
Oh gosh. My wife, she went to my son, who knows that my son can't lie.
That's so mean.
Looked him right in the eye and said, did dad get me an iMac for Christmas? Don't lie to me. And now the poor kid, it was really funny actually, but the poor kid sitting there petrified. I was like, oh no, I promised Dad I wouldn't tell mom. He goes, but I can't lie either.
Right. Well, that was my next question for you. That was my next question. What do you do if you're put in a situation with the kids? So I have my boyfriend and I've been together 5 years, and his kid used to put me in situations where he would I would have to lie, either choose him or tell you see what I'm saying? That's hard too, because then I'm lying to my boyfriend or I'm taking the kid's side. He's 10 years old. He would buy candy when his dad said no, or he would be eating what I'm saying? And I saw him, I would see him do the thing his dad would say no candy, but we'd stop for whatever, bathroom break on the way to whatever. Yeah. And the kid would put candy at the register and he'd buy it. And his dad would say no. And I saw him do it. And then he would get in the car and, my boyfriend would say, did you, everything okay? Yeah. And I'd be sitting there going, I know he wasn't supposed to do that, but what do those kind of things? That's not really lying, because his dad didn't say, did you buy candy?
Yeah. But
at the same time, I knew he wasn't supposed to. So in that situation,
there's a lot of levels to that one.
Really?
Well, one is it's not your child.
It's not my kid, right?
It's not your kid.
Right.
And plus you have a relationship going on. So there's several levels with this that gets
which is why I'm not blending families, because I can't deal with it. I just can't.
Blended families is hard.
Yes, it is.
And as long as no one's really getting hurt, I think it's fine for you to step back and just go, I don't want to get involved.
I don't want to get involved. I didn't. And you know what? I was like,
I think that's fair.
And then but the worst part is that then when he opens the candy and his dad's like, where'd you get that? And he's like, oh, I had it in my pot or whatever, that I'm like, oh my, then it's and then I don't want him to get mad at me that I let him buy the candy. It's I'm saying that's the lying that just gets interwoven with all these stuff. I'm like, I can't take it, but it's something so stupid. It's candy. Who really cares? Right.
Yeah. That's why I would just, you don't have to fight every battle.
Right. Exactly.
You can choose your battles. If it's drugs and alcohol or something very dangerous,
yes, it's different.
Then you speak up,
right.
But otherwise you don't have to pick, you can ignore certain things.
I think that's good.
So we can say, we say that with parents who if you have major problems with your kids and like they eye roll, like you say something and they roll their eyes. Like you can just ignore that. It's kind of
Oh,
harmless
okay.
as long as they're obeying whatever rule it is. Like if you tell them to go do their homework and they roll their eyes and they go do their homework,
Is that a habit?
focus on the fact that they went and did their homework and completely ignore the eye
Oh,
rolling.
really?
When
Okay.
they roll their eyes, it usually means you've won the argument and you just stop there. You don't have to address that.
Okay.
What they want is you to react.
Oh, they
And when
do.
you don't react, when they get no reaction to it, then it eventually goes away.
Really? So it's not a habit.
Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, it's a habit. He does it all the time. I'm thinking, is it a habit? Is it become a habit?
It could be a habit.
Oh.
It could be a habit.
Okay.
When things are quiet, because if it is a habit, when things are calm, not when they eye roll, but later on, just say, I notice you roll your eyes a lot. Doesn't bother me, but I think it's a habit of yours. But just so you know, people don't like that.
No, they don't.
And explain that at a calm thing. But if it's a slight, like a little bit of disrespect, I call it a little bit because they're still doing their whatever you ask them to do. Usually they roll their eyes like, oh, okay, I'll go do whatever.
Yes. But what if a teacher
You've
says
won
something?
the battle because they're doing it.
What if a teacher says something? Like I have a friend whose child rolls his eyes, and the teacher at conferences said he needs to stop rolling his eyes. He rolls his eyes at me. Then?
Then if so the teacher's complaining about it?
Yeah. Like the teacher
is the teacher not able to give the child consequences for it?
Well, I don't know. Is there supposed to? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not,
we tend to separate. We tend to let the school discipline the kids.
Okay, gotcha.
And support the kids.
Gotcha.
So in general, unless it's something really serious.
Yeah.
When a child gets in trouble at school, we let school handle it.
Gotcha. Oh, I didn't know. Okay.
And then don't double up on the punishment at home. That's
interesting.
You can do some things, but in general, let the school handle the consequences.
Oh, that's really interesting. My kids go to private school, so that never happens. Like they call home and they're like, so-and-so did so. And then you're like, the kid gets detention in school and he gets in trouble at home. My kids didn't, knock on wood, I didn't have that, but a lot of kids have double,
And in fact, when we recommend to parents, and there's been a movement against this, and we're not in favor of this, which is that people want to hold parents responsible for their kids' behavior in school. We need to hold the parents responsible. And our response is, no, you need to hold the child responsible.
Oh, I love that. I agree.
And when you go into the school, ask them, say, how to help me hold my child responsible. I want you to hold the child responsible also.
Okay.
Too often parents are going into the school and trying to get their kids out of the punishment.
All the time.
As opposed to supporting the school. You don't like eye rolling?
Why do you
give
think
the kid attention? Give my child attention. Do what it takes to get the eye rolling. Help me. I don't like it either.
That's what parents should be doing, right?
And partnering with the school. Yes. That's what we believe. Yes. I agree with you. Yes, we believe that.
Because how many times parents go in and they're like, I can't believe you gave my kid detention for walking in the hallway backwards. It's like, no, if your kid did something wrong in school, there's probably a reason why they got the detention, right? I mean.
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean.
They view the problem as the punishment, not that the child was doing something wrong. And we disagree. We fundamentally disagree with that approach. We think that if your child's having a problem in school, they should face the consequences.
I agree.
And you should support the school on that.
I agree.
You want to be in a school where that's done. The worst thing in the world is to have your child in a school where abusive behavior is not, or disruptive behavior is not met with consequences. It ruins the experience for all the kids who go there who just want to learn.
Agree. And it's also not fair when one kid gets a consequence for the same thing as the other kid didn't.
That's true.
I hate that.
But that happens too.
I know,
but
right?
that happens.
I know.
One thing we teach our kids is life is not fair. Life's not fair. It's not always going to be.
It's so hard.
It's not always going to be fair.
I know.
Now, if your child is consistently singled out and no one else is,
different.
That's different. But because they don't get everyone, then it's like speeding. Cops don't pull over everyone. They don't get everyone. They have to pick a car.
That's a great example.
It's not fair that they didn't pull everyone over, but they can't pull everyone over, and they're not perfect either. So.
That is such a great example I'm going to use with my kid right now because we're having an issue in college in his freshman year and he feels that way. Like he's always, and I'm like, I'm going to use that. Not everybody gets pulled over. It's not, oh, that's great. I would love to keep you forever. I have one more question. Can we have one more question? Nice little segue. So what do you do when you're, I would say I'm a helicopter / a little bit of a helicopter, a little dash of tiger mom. Not really, but I have a hard time with like mom guilt and like trying to like stay out of my kids, everything. But now I feel like I am my anxiety is so heightened when my kids are anxious or they're not getting what they're supposed to get, or they're not. Is that just a mom thing? How do we, I don't know if I'm even asking the right question here, but
It's a mom thing. It's a society thing. It's
everything thing.
There's anxiety is clearly a problem, but I think it tends to be overdiagnosed. Anxiety is normal.
Okay, good. Because I have lots.
If you're not anxious about something, you're not trying.
Okay, good. Oh, I love that. Thank you,
I
Kimball.
lose sleep. Like doing this podcast is straightforward, but I haven't been podcasting forever. The first few that I was anxious about, the first few ones are easier now.
Yeah, totally.
I'm sure the same way with you. The very first
God,
podcast you did, were you anxious about it?
Yes.
Yeah. Unless you've done the same thing for years and years and years. When you try something new, even I'm in my 50s, even at my age, I get anxious about doing something new.
Right. And parenting seems to be new every year, every minute. Parenting changes, and I feel like I'm always so anxious with parenting.
And it's normal. The other thing I would say on that is one is I explain to my kids that anxiety is normal.
Me too.
It's completely normal. And sometimes it's almost debilitating, and you might need to get help for it. But in general, but if you view anxiety as abnormal, like there's something wrong with your child because they're anxious, no, that's not true. Anxiety is completely normal. My nephew took the SATs yesterday. He was anxious about it. Like that's completely normal. Like you should be anxious about it.
Absolutely.
You want a little bit of the anxiety is what drives you a little bit. So don't think it's abnormal or there's something wrong with you because you're anxious. And I explained that to my kids.
Yeah.
But the other thing I would say is that it's okay. And we remind parents of this all the time. It's okay for your child to struggle. It's okay for them to struggle.
It's so hard for me
really
to watch.
Hard. It's brutal to watch.
Isn't it brutal to watch?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I want to break my heart.
And in so many ways.
Yes, so many ways. But it's good for them,
my
right?
son, it's good for them. They learn through the struggle, and you need to let them struggle.
I agree.
You don't want them to get hurt, so you can help them if they're actually going to get hurt, but they need to struggle. And it's through struggle that you get growth, and you want to support them and coach them, but not remove the struggle.
Right.
You don't want your child to be too comfortable.
Oh, I agree. Because when
they'll never leave home. They'll never leave home if they're too comfortable.
Although I don't know about that. Both of mine are leaving me. I'm an empty nester.
They are.
Oh God, it's a whole nother podcast we could do. But
are you okay with empty nesting?
I don't know. It starts I don't think so. No, I don't think I'm okay.
My kids, we're brand new this year, empty nesters.
Next year, me. How are you guys doing?
It's been awesome.
Okay, I'm going to call you because I'm literally shaking.
I hate to say it, but and my kids, we have a good relationship, but it's been great. I worry about them a little bit,
me too. I'm worried.
But I almost don't want to know what's going on because then it would make me more anxious. So I've sort of built a wall between them and
I need to. Yes, I need that. I need to build. I'm actually starting very transparently. I'm starting with a therapist next week to teach me how to build that wall because during the podcast just now, I don't know if you saw me kind of reach up. My kid is FaceTiming me during the podcast, and I'm like, my entire demeanor changed because I'm like, oh my God, Jonah needs me. It's like he needs to stop. Like it needs to just. Yeah. I still talk to him 10 times a day. That's not okay. He's in college. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need to learn how to build that wall. I need to.
In business, like I had before I did all this, I was out doing startup world stuff. Uh-huh. And in business, a lot of times teams grow the most when there's always one person who knows everything, who knows how to do everything. And then they go on vacation for the first time and everyone's freaked out because how are we going to do it? Or the manager who's always involved in everything goes on vacation for a week or two. Very often that's when the team really gels and grows. Awesome. Is because now they're forced to do it on their own. The helicopter manager or the helicopter expert who's there to do whatever, they're gone now. You can't go to them for the answers. You have to.
That's such a good point.
I worked with someone named Judy. She knew everything. And she went on vacation and we're all petrified. Like, what's going to happen? So
where's
we
Judy?
would say, WWJD. What would Judy do?
That's what my kid's like, where's mom? What, we can't breathe. I'm like, you're fine. Go, babies, go. I totally get it. I mean.
And we underestimate our kids. They're actually very capable. If anything, we're underestimating them, not overestimating them.
And he's fine. He's absolutely fine. He can do it. And he's on his, and you know what? He's thriving. And then I get that phone call and I'm like, and you know what? He just wants to say hi. And I'm like, okay, what is wrong with me that I go from 0 to 60, but I don't even know what he's calling about. Right. So
change your phone number.
Oh my God, I need to. I'm telling you, Kimball. I'm telling you.
That's not real parenting advice. That was a joke. Don't have to change your phone number, but
I moved to Italy. I'm like, see ya. I mean, they're great. And you know what? It's like they have.
Yeah.
You're so right, though. It's like we underestimate them, and they're all capable kids. They're capable. They can do it. Oh my God, Kimball, I could talk all day to you. I always feel I feel so much better after I read your Facebook group. I get on there. I'm like, okay, let me do this one. I got this down. I mean, I think you're just everything about empowering parents. It's positive. I feel like I feel good after I read it. And I think that you're doing great work. So I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. Did I leave anything unturned? Lots unturned, but I mean, can you come back again next season?
Yeah, I'll come back again.
I would love
I can
it.
be a regular guest if you want.
Oh my God, don't even tease me. Don't even tease me.
This is what I do. I evangelize the work of James Lehman and the Total Transformation Program. That's my mission.
I mean, and you're doing such a great job. Such a great job. And everybody, listener or listeners or everybody, please go to empoweringparents.com.
Empoweringparents.com.
I mean, it's so easy. And go to the Facebook page and the Instagram feed. But the Facebook page is really good. I mean, it's all really good, but it's all really good. And
yeah, you'll get we do a post every day. You'll get some good practical advice.
Yep. And it's like
some affirmations.
Yes. It's good stuff.
All those things.
It's good stuff. Kimball, I appreciate you so much. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jennifer.
And I'm going to hang up and go FaceTime my kid. I'm just kidding. I might be reaching out to you for some empty nest support. I'm going to start a support group, an empty nester support group.
I'm worried I like it too much. I think there's maybe something's wrong with me.
I'm so glad to hear that because I'm literally thinking about it makes me like tear up. I don't know what I'm going to do by myself. Oh, yeah. Okay, everybody, do your thing today. Go do something fabulous. Kimball, thank you for being here. Once again, you know where to find me, jenniferhurwitz.com, and go do relationships right and be happy and be a great parent and go follow Kimball, empoweringparents.com. Thanks, you guys. Peace, love, and so much truth. Hey, thanks for listening to Doing Relationships Right. Don't forget, if you love the show, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast episodes. And grab my books, One Happy Divorce and Woulda, Coulda, Shoulda, on Amazon, Target.com, or my website, jenniferhurwitz.com. As usual, thanks for listening, and see you next week. Peace, love, and truth.